This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today, we'll feel and experience California through the eyes of a third-generation Californian, wonderful Mike Rogerson.
Well, I grew up in what I jokingly refer to as the wrong side of Bel Air.
The wrong side of Bel Air.
It's not the Bel Air that many people imagine. Yeah, lower Bel Air is full of the mansions and the celebrities and the very posh homes. But I grew up in Upper Bel Air, which is full of your basic ranch style homes. Nothing extraordinary. Or they're being replaced now, of course. But one of the things that was unusual about that place was the views and the access to nature.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to have a California experience? Have you ever thought what it is like to be born and grow up in California? It must be like starting your life with a burst of sunshine and waking up every morning to the sound of palm trees rustling in the breeze and feeling the warmth of the embracing sun on your skin all year round, and imbibing the scent of salt water in the air. From the rugged coastline to the majestic mountains, you learn to develop a deep appreciation for the natural beauty that surrounds you. And it's so much more than just the physical environment. It's a mindset with a laid-back, easygoing approach to life that values creativity, innovation, and diversity. The name California is believed to have originated from a Spanish novel called Las Sergas de Esplandian, which was written by Garci Rodriguez de Montalvo in 1510. Most likely, the inspiration for the word was Khalifa, which means successor, ruler, or leader in Arabic, which Montalvo must have been familiar with, as portions of Spain were ruled by the Moors until late 1500s. The novel tells the story of a mythical island called California, which was said to be a land of gold and precious stones. Know that on the right hand of the Indies was an island called California, very near to the region of the terrestrial paradise, which was populated by black women without there being any man among them. That, almost like the Amazons, was their style of living. They were of vigorous bodies and strong and ardent hearts and of great strength. The island itself, the strongest, in steep rocks and cliff boulders, that is found in the world. The Spanish explorers were definitely looking for an island dream when they gave California its name. Hundreds of years later, people still come to California searching for their own piece of the California dream. And it's such a great example of how our lives are affected by cultural influences when we are not even aware of them. California is a place where anything is possible and all your dreams can come true. Most of all, to live in California means to have a deep sense of pride in your home. It's a place that inspires loyalty and devotion, and where people are fiercely protective of their communities. It's a place that will always hold a special place in your heart, no matter where life takes you. And here we are. Welcome to California. I'm so excited to have wonderful Mike Rogerson here with me. Mike was born and raised in Los Angeles, one of the long line of self-starting innovators and entrepreneurs. His 30-year real estate career has included work on a variety of projects in the most celebrated areas of California, from iconic recording studios in Hollywood to historic hilltop estates in Beverly Hills. Mike has explored living in a variety of neighborhoods, including Beverly Hills, San Diego, San Francisco, and most recently, Laguna Beach. Both his life and work have increased his love and his knowledge of this gorgeous state. Mike loves jumping into the ocean early in the morning, photographing nature and people, and outdoor sports. He's a father of 2 daughters who have committed their lives to stage and film acting and hope to make their careers in Hollywood. Mike will share with us what it feels like to be a third-generation Californian. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Masha. Good to speak with you.
Good to speak to you as well. And I was really, really looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your love of California. And I appreciate, you helped me appreciate it more. Being a longtime resident, you helped me view it with new eyes. So thank you.
No, of course. And I must tell you that you're probably the only Californian that I know who is actually a third generation, which is so
Yes.
remarkable to me because, people come and go, and California seems, in so many ways, such a transitional place. And
Yes.
for you to have been here, forever, with your ancestors is just incredible to me.
Yeah, it is highly unusual. And, the time that I've spent in California with people that I know, very few people have a family that stretches back that far. A lot of people came here during the 50s and 60s, but I have family that goes back to just after the turn of the century.
Okay. So do you actually know the history of your family? Do you know exactly when they came here, and do you know why?
Yeah, a little bit. So for example, on my father's side, my great grandfather came from Canada to San Francisco, and my grandfather was born in San Francisco in 1908, which was just after the great earthquake up there. And the unusual thing about that side of the family is that my great grandfather was a water engineer. So he worked for the city of San Francisco building the water system for the city. And he got the opportunity to do it twice because it was destroyed in the 1906 earthquake, and he got to build it right back again.
Very interesting. Wow.
And on my mother's side, my grandmother was born in Los Angeles. She lived in Culver City. And the story about her is she used to walk down to the studios from her house after school and be able to be an extra in some of the shows that they were filming at the time. Something called The Little Rascals, which I'm not sure if you'd have to be of a certain age to remember that show. But it was a great show that I used to watch as a kid, and she was an extra on a number of those episodes.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very interesting. And do you know where your mother's family came from? Where did they come from?
They came from the Midwest. They were a long time in Ohio. My family on my mother's side actually stretches back quite a ways to even the Revolutionary period here in the United States. So we're not that side of the family is not recent immigrants.
Very, very interesting. So, where did you grow up? And what was it like growing up in California? And what area was that?
Well, I grew up in what I jokingly refer to as the wrong side of Bel Air.
The wrong side of Bel Air.
It's not the Bel Air that many people imagine. Yeah, lower Bel Air is full of the mansions and the celebrities and the very posh homes. But I grew up in Upper Bel Air, which is full of your basic ranch style homes. Nothing extraordinary. Or they're being replaced now, of course. But one of the things that was unusual about that place was the views and the access to nature. So the home that I grew up in had just an expansive view of the hills and the canyons and a peekaboo view of downtown Los Angeles. And we had a natural reservoir below us, and my brother and I used to be able to go hiking through the hills, and it really feel like we were almost had a rural type childhood because we'd take our slingshots and BB guns and go down the hill and spend hours and hours and hours in there. We even had places to go and fish, so it really kind of unusual for a place that's in the middle of Los Angeles.
Yes, I can see that, and also it's just fascinating that was your world when you were growing up. That's just so remarkable.
The interesting thing is that I didn't really have much of an appreciation for Los Angeles growing up. And I didn't really develop my appreciation for Los Angeles until I went to college. I did go to college here in Los Angeles. I went to USC, and that's a university that draws from all over the nation. So a lot of the new friends that I made there came to me as kind of the default person to give them tours of Los Angeles. They wanted to see all these places that they had heard of. Honestly, there were a lot of places that I hadn't been to. So I got to view my own city with fresh eyes by being exposed to people who were recent transplants there.
Okay, so they made you appreciate the place where you live much more, because I guess when you're in this blind spot in a way, because like this is all you've seen all your life, and you maybe almost take it for granted what you have.
Yeah, a fish doesn't know they're in water. And I grew up in the water. I was a fish that grew up in water in Los Angeles and exposed to the entertainment industry and the beautiful scenery and the ocean and the mountains and the snow and all the things that Southern California affords. I guess I assumed that was everyone's experience.
Right. And while everybody just dreams of coming to California, especially those who want to try their hand at acting specifically. I mean, this is like California is the dream place, like for so many people. And to be born here, to be third generation here, and to grow up, it's just like, wow, very interesting.
It's been an interesting place to grow up, for sure.
Okay, well, tell me, so you went to school, in Bel Air, probably, right? And
my high school was in West Los Angeles. And
okay.
It's an older high school. It was built, for some people around the world, it's not older, but it was built in 1924. And one of the more remarkable things about this school is a public school. One of the more remarkable things is the number of famous celebrities who also went to the school. For example, Judy Garland, Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor all went there. And that's pretty remarkable, I think.
Yes, for sure. And have you ever had a teacher who taught any of the celebrities that you just mentioned?
No. They would have been before my time.
Okay, so you don't have any stories about them?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, did you know that actually when you went to school? Did you know about them at that time, or you found out later?
I knew about some of them, but doing subsequent research, I found out that the list is long. So it's not just those three. There would be more recent actors like Josh Brolin, Jeff Bridges, and Herb Ritts, the photographer. So, and the list goes on.
Right. Very cool. So imagine studying with one of them at the same time. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, really would have been. But it has a historic feel. You feel the history in that school, and
Uh-huh.
it's also been featured in many films. Because it's a very traditional looking campus.
So did you ever go back to that school after you finished it?
Not really. I felt like that world, and I think this is the case with a lot of people, I felt like that world had suddenly shrunk after I went to college and my world opened up. So in a certain sense, I didn't look back.
Okay, well, fair enough. So have you always lived in Bel Air, or did you move around like as you were growing up? Did you live at any other areas in Los Angeles?
No, I'm fortunate enough that the home that I grew up in, my family still owns. So I grew up in that house through the time that I went off to college, and I have lived in other places. I lived, for example, in Washington, D.C. is the only place that I've lived that's not in California. And that place has its own sort of magic and intrigue, being the center of government. And there's a lot of intelligent people. There's a lot of arts. There's a lot of international focus. So that was an unusual place in itself. But as far as California, the other places I've lived are San Diego and San Francisco. And I find San Francisco to be a really special city. I was there during a very special time. I was there during the .com boom, and that made it a very interesting place to be and very exciting.
And so how was it different to you as compared to the place where you grew up? In what way was it different to you, like the way you perceived it?
San Francisco has kind of a East Coast vibe to it, I'll say. It's a more intellectual town. It's colder. It never warms up in the summertime, so you don't have much of a summertime in the city of San Francisco. But it almost feels like a different country. It doesn't feel like the California that I'm accustomed to.
And you're saying it is a true Californian.
True, yeah, exactly.
That is something.
But a special place indeed, for sure.
Okay, so but you would not choose to move to San Francisco, probably for some reason.
No, I think it's a very youth-oriented place. As a young professional, it was an exciting place to be, and I lived in the city. And that's living in a city can be taxing a bit on the lifestyle. Taking public transportation and fighting the downtown and the crowds. But in my 30s, it was really a good place for me to be, and I'm thankful for the experience.
Very cool. Well, I've heard of a story, from your childhood that was shared with me, and it was related to Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Yes. Can you share a little bit more, like details about this? I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah. So the home that I grew up in, our neighbor directly across the street was Bruce Lee and his wife, Linda. And my mom was friends with Linda. And I used to play with Shannon, his daughter. And my brother would play with Brandon, his son. And we used to go and watch him work out on the punching bag, and he would display his magic. But what was also really unusual is that my mom married my stepdad when I was about 4 years old. And strangely enough, my stepdad had trained with Bruce Lee when he lived in Seattle. So he knew Bruce Lee. He had no idea he lived across the street, and showed up, and my mom says, "Oh, that's our neighbor Bruce." And they had this great reconnection.
Oh my God, what a coincidence in such a huge
amazing
city. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. So he continued taking lessons from Bruce Lee while living across the street from him, or?
No, I think that was, he had retired from the martial arts at that point, but he passed away when I was pretty young. So I don't have, I wish he had stayed longer, because he was a really interesting character.
Okay. And so how would you describe him? What kind of person was he from like the private kind of perspective?
Very spiritual, very patient, very well read. And what's interesting is my stepdad would tell me stories about him and his group of friends. They used to hang out together. And the patience that Bruce had with people who would give him a hard time, because this was in an era when there was more racism and people would make fun of the Asian kid, and they had no idea this guy was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he would come to his own defense in vigorous ways.
Wow. That's incredible. So, and you did say that when you saw him like do his magic, so it must have been mesmerizing for you to see his technique in martial arts.
One thing I remember is how fast he was. Unbelievably fast, like superhuman fast.
Mm-hmm.
And not a big guy.
Interesting. Do you think his spirituality was really the moving force in his art?
I think 100%. Absolutely. I don't think he could have excelled to the point that he was at unless he had full control of his mind and full control of his destiny. And he was someone who saw what he did as his destiny, and he applied his whole being to it and used his philosophy as a guiding light as a platform to excel.
Right. Well, that seems to be a practice in and of itself. Once you have certain faith within yourself and then you apply it in your everyday life, it really guides you, like once you're practicing it. And that's how you basically shape your life. And what a great example he must have given you, when you were still a child.
Certainly. Absolutely.
Oh, I love this story. Yeah, I was hoping you would, share some more details about it.
Well, thank you for asking.
No, thank you so much for sharing it. It was very interesting, Mom, just to hear about this icon of martial arts, from this kind of like private view of his life. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
So right now you live in Laguna Beach.
Correct.
And this is an absolutely majestic place, in my opinion.
It is a special place. And I'm more of a Los Angeles person and never even really contemplated moving down to Orange County because they really are kind of different worlds. But work brought me down here and I thought long and hard about it. And one of the only places I didn't look anywhere else except Laguna Beach. That was where I wanted to be. I knew there was something special about it. And that's where I ended up. And I'm really pleased that I did.
Oh, so how would you describe Laguna Beach to someone who has never been there?
Well, it really feels like its own world due to its location. It's sort of isolated. It's really a destination. It's not some place that people transit through, and it's not immediately connected to other cities. What makes it special to me is how glad people are to be there, how happy people are to live there. You can feel that in people and you can see it in their face. It's a small city. I think the population is 23,000. So it's not a big city, but people really take ownership of it and take pride in it. It's long been known as a artist retreat, an arts hotspot, and they still do take their arts very seriously. There's a playhouse, there's museums, there's lots of galleries. They have art walks once a month. On top of that, you have the people coming in as tourists, and they're thrilled. They're thrilled to be there. They love being there, and just the vibe of the people who are happy to be there, happy to live there. The vibe of the people who are happy to visit there. It makes it a very positive place.
So you do feel positivity being exuded out of this place in a way.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I think it's one of the most beautiful places on the Southern California coast too. There's cliffs and rocks and that go on, and the beaches are beautiful and they're clean, and the water's one of the cleanest spots in Southern California. So you get water that is bluer and clearer than you do in most spots. So that makes it special too.
Okay. So you grew up in Bel Air. You lived in San Francisco and in San Diego. You went to school in West LA. So now that you live in Laguna Beach, how would you say moving there affected the quality of your life?
Well, it was a pretty big change moving from Los Angeles, and most recently I was in the Beverly Hills area. It's a much smaller community, and I think it shrunk my life a bit. I I tend not to travel outside of Laguna Beach if I don't have to. I live downtown. It's cute downtown. There's plenty of stores there. Everything that I need is within a couple minute walk. And it's allowed me to slow down a bit and to maybe appreciate where I'm at a little more and not be in such a hurry and not spend so much time in my car like I was in Los Angeles, and to, I guess, more fully absorb myself in the community.
Okay. And the way you're saying that it shrunk your life, but it seems to me that it is more kind of like on the outside that it is shrunk, but because of the ocean that you're facing, while you're at home.
That's a really good point.
Yes. So I was, very lucky to have visited you. And honestly, when you're standing on your balcony and you see this expansive ocean right in front of you, it feels that, maybe physically, because, you're not going to go to the other side of the ocean, but you can kind of like take it all in and be more contemplative.
Yeah.
And yes, you don't have to drive a long distance to go to another place, but within your own world, like where you live right now, the expansion is probably happening inside of you.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It does give you an expansive sense of being, because I look out on this ocean and I have a fabulous view from my place. And there's no grids on the ocean, there's no roads, there's no signs, there's no guiding principles. It's limitless, and it gives you a great sense of opportunity. Like pick your path, pick the direction to look in, pick the direction to go, and what lies on that horizon, who knows? You can be a degree off and you'll have a completely different experience.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. And, this can be almost like your spiritual practice, because I've always thought that the power of California as a state is in the ocean, because it's so magnetic. It is so powerful and mesmerizing. And it feels like there is no limit to it. And once you have, traveled all around California and you lived in different cities and in different places and experienced different terrains, like from hills to plains. And now that you find yourself right in front of the ocean and there is no place to go in a way, but at the same time, the whole world inside of you is opened up for you and you just need to
100%. Yeah, it's really foundational. And even when I was living someplace as far away as Washington, D.C., I found that my basis for bearing was what direction is the Pacific Ocean. That's how it's foundational in me. It's the marker for where I am in this world, that ocean.
And that's probably what it means to be Californian, to have this marker, because if you didn't grow up in California, you really have other markers because, there is like another place where you were born and maybe there was no ocean or sea, or maybe there were no mountains. So, people who are not from California, they have all sorts of different markers in their lives, And for you, the marker is the ocean. Oh.
It's, the ocean is very special to me as well.
Beautiful. Well, it looks like you're at the right place.
Yeah, for sure.
And one more question to you. Now that we have traveled all over the state and, different areas, so what does your home mean to you?
Well, I think the ocean, getting back to the ocean, that plays a large part in it. I made a trade-off of space for view. A lot of places in Laguna Beach are older and smaller, but this place just had that balcony and the wall of windows and the 180-degree view of the ocean. And that is my backyard. The Pacific Ocean, Laguna Beach are my backyard. So I really feel like those are an extension to my home and a part of my home. And I get up, I look outside, I see the ocean, I see the sunsets, I see the weather, and that connection to nature suggests home to me. That's where home is for me, is being a part of nature and being a part of the world. I don't feel like I'm warehoused in a box somewhere. I feel like I'm really part of the environment.
And that seems to me is another description of being a Californian, like being part of the environment, being part of nature, because there are so many activities that Californians do outside, unlike the rest of the world or unlike the rest of the United States. Because of the weather, we are here closer to nature and closer to the ocean and mountains. And it does feel not being confined to a box here.
Yes. And you have so many different opportunities. It's a bit cliche almost, but you have the deserts, you have the mountains, you have the ocean, you have different cities with different feels to them. It's really quite a varied place, and you can never be bored.
That's very true. Yes, in California, you'll always find the right place for yourself to be and the right activities for yourself to do. Yes, and what a blessing it is to be born here and to live here.
It is, and I do have to thank you again for pointing out the fortune that I have of being from here and living here and experiencing it every day.
No, of course. And I guess for me, being an immigrant and grew up in the cold weather of Russia, and it was not very conducive to my well-being. And the other day we rewatched E.T., this magnificent movie by Steven Spielberg. And while we were watching it, I Googled the locations for where the movie was shot. I was like, oh my God, it's in Tahanga. It's so close by. We can, jump in the car and just drive there. And just this feeling alone that I'm in California. And, when this movie was released, I was just a baby, and now watching the lifestyle, of the 80s, what life was like in California.
Yes.
And the children were ordering pizzas. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so blessed to live in California. And yes, it's just like, it really made my day.
Well, people like you, Masha, they make California a special place to be because, like Laguna and the people who are happy to be there, it's people do feel blessed to be here. And it's it makes for a nice life.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. And I'm blessed to have you as a friend. And I'm absolutely delighted that you're third generation Californian and that you agreed to do the interview about this wonderful place.
Of course, Masha. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have a conversation with you, and happy to point out what makes California special to me.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate our conversation, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Masha. I appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed experiencing California through the eyes of my special guest, Mike Rogerson. Please press the like button, follow, and share your feedback for the podcast. Your time and support are really appreciated. Next time, we are traveling to magical Lake Elsinore. See you there.
In the mood for California, feel the soul of Old Hollywood.